And this is Eric. So the reason I wanted to make this video is essentially to give contributors to the Rootski project some background on me and also some background on just what the project is about. Yeah, like what it's for and why I created it. And also maybe like a slight glimpse into the roadmap of the project, although I think I'll save going in depth into that for a later video when I can dive deeper into like the architecture and stuff. Oh, and then the last thing is I just want to talk about what it's going to be like contributing to Rootski if you want to do that. So, yeah, so I figured I'd just start introing myself because I mean, if you're going to do a project, you're probably curious to know like who started it and I mean, who you're going to be working with in general. So, um, let me just start with my LinkedIn page. I think that'll be a good thing to do. So, yeah, so I have been coding for honestly not that long. I mean, I took one class in high school and then I took one class in college when I first started in 2014. But then I left to go serve a church mission for this church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Russia for 2 years. So I left in 2015. Yeah, I left in 2015 and I didn't come back home from Russia until 2017. So I was there for 24 months. Yeah, and when I was in Russia, I mean, I like learned Russian because I was living there. So I studied super hard. I had a lot of friends who were studying super hard, who were Americans or people from other countries who were serving the same sort of mission. So the entire time I was there, I was basically thinking about this app. Like this, that's where the idea for Rootski was conceived. So I'll talk more about what Rootski does later, but basically it's a super helpful language tool for studying Russian. Like honestly, like I know everybody says this about their startup or whatever, their project, but Rootski Rootski's actually really cool. I mean, for this subset of people who are studying Russian, it's what Rootski tries to do is give people a tool that helps them basically gives them a secret edge on studying Russian. So it can be what Rootski does is can be game changing for people studying Russian. So yeah, I mean, you may not be studying Russian, so it can be a little hard to communicate why it's so cool, but I can say that it is. So yeah, I'll talk about that more in a bit. So yeah, let's see. So yeah, so I got back from Russia, and then I was I was really confused. I didn't know what I wanted to study, and so like I declared as business when I got into school, and I totally thought I was going to get an MBA, and I don't know, maybe I'll do that someday, but I'm not so sure anymore. So yeah, I like was really torn. I was trying to decide between computer science and math, of which I was going to study, and that was post 2017 when I got back. So so being super conflicted, long story short, I was in this research lab and I met this LinkedIn influencer named Ben Taylor, and he had this awesome presentation about how people were using facial recognition to identify like if people were having certain health problems. And I was like, what? That is so cool. And so that presentation basically resolved it for me. Yeah, that was the one I was like doing research at Idea Labs. That is an awesome name. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, after I had that experience in the research lab, it wasn't really a question for me anymore. I just switched. I'd done like a good chunk of the CS major, but I switched from CS into applied math. And if you care, applied math at most universities is basically a physics degree. But at BYU, there's a really cool guy named Jeff Humphreys who started the BYU applied math program, and he's now like a lead data scientist at a company called Owlet that makes a sock that basically monitors babies' oxygen levels and some other things at night. So if your baby is if your baby has like a health crisis, an alarm will go off and um, like warn parents what's happening. If you Google the Owlet sock, it's such a cool product. Yeah, like there's like pages of YouTube reviews, sorry, like comments on YouTube videos of like third party reviewers just filled with moms saying things like, I went into my, like, it was 2 a.m. and the alarm went off. I went into my baby's room and he was blue and I did like infant CPR and like resuscitated him. So yeah, it's just really cool. So the guy that is basically leading that product, which is like a truly powerful like AI product, like probably one of the few that actually add a lot of value in real life. He started this program. And so he designed it from the ground up to be sort of like the background of machine learning and data science. Like, so it's going to be like it was like the mathematical underpinnings of all that stuff, plus like algorithms and stuff. So you can think of it as like a combo of like, it was literally like a stats degree plus a math degree, plus a CS degree. And yeah, and going through all that, I mean, the work-life balance was pretty awful. I mean, kids in the program were working like 60 or 70-hour weeks, which I don't know, maybe that's normal for a more rigorous program, but yeah, I mean, it was crazy. So I did that, and so then I got out of school and I was like, I need to be a data scientist because that's what I studied. And I'm honestly not even so sure about that anymore, even though I do love modeling. Like, but that's a story for another time. So basically, my first internship was like in analytics. So that was like writing SQL queries and solving like regular business problems, not with like data science or machine learning, but just with like counting, like how many things did we sell, or are the salespeople meeting their quota, or has it been more than a month since a salesperson contacted this account that they're in charge of? So honestly, that showed me that like the 80/20 rule totally applies to data problems in general. I mean, like 80% of the value of a good data set, honestly, probably doesn't need AI or machine learning at all, like in a typical business case. So that made me a little sad just coming out of my major like because I think data science is awesome, and I was like all hyped up on like how it's going to revolutionize the world and healthcare and stuff. And I still think it can do that to a large degree. I think that analytics often doesn't get like the credit it deserves. Like it's not like the sexiest part of the data world, but it's actually pretty impactful. So that was good to be like grounding right up front. And then from there, I moved to actually be like a data engineer. So I was an intern at this company called Inside Sales, and um, that was where I started to like build real software. I mean, I guess I had been building real software in school, like in school, like I made like an Android app in Java or something like that. But it wasn't like in an industry setting. So yeah, I was like craving like after being in analytics, I was like dying to get real software experience. Like I had no idea what it was like being a developer. And so I was like taking all these courses. That was when I first learned about Docker, and Docker has like been game changing for my career. And yeah, and I learned about like writing good quality code and about like version control on a team and like architecting really complex systems with like queues and REST APIs and like infrastructure as code and stuff like that. So basically, so yeah, then I converted to like a full time employee at. They rebranded, so it looks like I have four positions, but it was really just two. So it was at this company called Inside Sales, which rebranded to Zant. And so I was a data engineer intern first, and then I was a data engineer, and I worked there full time. And honestly, I did some stuff I'm super proud of. Like I built some really awesome software with some really friendly people, and like my career just like exploded and transformed. But I wasn't getting like the machine learning or data science education that I was hoping to get. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like I don't need work to give me like every single like I don't need work to give me like exposure to every single part of tech that I'm interested in. So this job totally made me a great software engineer. I mean, if I do say so myself, obviously, but yeah, it made me really confident about data engineering, handling big data, yeah, just the data workflow in general, working in AWS cloud, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, but I wasn't getting like machine learning experience, I guess. So that was when I decided I was really gonna like lean into my personal project. So I had already been working on Rootski at that point for like 2 years. Like when I got back, I mean, almost everything I did in the first 2 years has totally been thrown away because it was just horrible quality. I didn't know much about architecting production software at the time. So like a lot of what I learned about Rootski initially, well, a lot of what I worked on with Rootski initially is thrown away, but I took all my learnings with me. And part of that was I spent like more than a summer, like literally all my free time during one summer scraping and collecting data for the Rootski data set. So I'll talk more about that later. But the data set behind Rootski, I actually think is pretty valuable. I mean, like it definitely was non-trivial to collect it, which I guess is always the case with a good data problem. But yeah, I mean, it took so much work to get it that even if someone could replicate um, like our software of Rootski.io, it would take a good bit of domain knowledge about the Russian language and some other things to actually copy our data. So in that sense, Rootski is kind of like they say if you're gonna like go into business or start a project that you should do something that you kind of have an unfair advantage at doing. So with Rootski, we kind of have that because we have this like really awesome data set. So I was working at Zant, And funny story, Zant recently went to a chop shop, and every single person there was laid off. Like, so it was I got out like probably months before that happened. So that was really cool. So so yeah, I was working on Rootski at the time on my personal time. This is my personal website, by the way. So so yeah, I like I was putting a lot of time into it, and I was learning all this stuff about architecture at work. Um, so I learned about model training and ML ops sort of on my own. I was just like, just soaking up all the blog posts I could about that aspect of data apps. So this whole little model training sector of Rootski, that was kind of stuff that I just sort of came to with a bunch of Googling and um, let's see. And then the actual architecture, like the way all the services interact, I don't really expect you to be reading this super closely, but just all these little things are basically Docker containers that sort of work together to make Rootski happen. So I learned how to do all this basically at my data engineering job, plus just Googling on the side. So and then one of the really, really cool things I got out of that first job was how to do CI/CD pipelines. So this is if you don't know what continuous integration or continuous deployment slash delivery is, it's basically how software teams like the instant new code hits a code base, it gets these automated quality checks run against the code. And if the code passes those checks, like unit tests and stuff, then it's considered ready for continuous delivery. So then you basically prepare that new code to be deployed. And then the next step isn't automatic. Someone will manually trigger this, but then like a person, like maybe your boss or something, when he decides it's time to release like V9 of your product or whatever, he'll click a single button, deploy, and it'll deploy that code that was prepared for deployment. So, and it's really cool because if you find out that like there were bugs in the release, you can click that button again and select like a previous version of your app, and it'll like instantaneously automatically like roll back your app to like V8 or V7, which maybe wasn't buggy. So it's so awesome. Like sorry, I guess we're kind of getting into the weeds here, but that particular software practice was like super valuable for me. I mean, like when I was talking, like because at my job I did a lot of our CI/CD stuff, and I became really interested in that. Um and yeah, like that was one of the biggest things that helped me get my current job as an ML ops engineer. And I use this stuff all the time, and like my team is super happy that I know it. I mean, I'm happy that my team members know it. I mean, any software team that you work on, basically any modern software team needs to wrap all of the software they write in some sort of continuous delivery pipeline. So just automated deployments of all your code. So that is something that I'm really excited to have on Broodski, and we're decently far along, but we have a lot of work to do there before it's where I want it to be. So so yeah, if each of the sectors of this diagram, like we have our software, we have our continuous deployment, we have our model training, and we have like the infrastructure in the cloud that it all runs on. Um, by the way, a lot of this diagram has changed. I have updated diagrams, but these are the skills that I'm hoping that uh, all the contributors of Rootski will gain a good understanding of. I mean, you may not be interested in every single part, but all these things are totally industry standard. I mean, it's going to be if you want to lean into it, I'm totally there to coach you. And so it's going to be so cool. So I actually sent this exact diagram to my current boss's boss. It was kind of a networking thing. So I probably had an unfair advantage getting this job, but I sent them this diagram, and they actually stopped the interview process right there. And I had 5 more meetings with various people on the team, and none of them were like evaluating me in any way. All of them are asking me like, when can you start? Or like, is this meeting that we're having valuable for you? I mean, it was just like totally different type of conversation. Like, um, I guess I'm trying to say totally different mood. It wasn't like, can you code? Can you architect this? What would you do in this situation? So like when people saw that I had done this, which was really cool because I'd really only been rolling as a software engineer like a year and a half. That's about how long it took me to sort of come to all this stuff on my own. And they were honestly treating me like a full like a senior developer at that point when I was interviewing. And they were kind of like it felt like they were rolling out the red carpet. And this company is like particularly kind to employees, but still, I mean, I felt like something had really pivotally changed for me where companies were treating me differently basically because I'd built something like this. So yeah, like for all the contributors for Rootski, I mean, whatever you have time to sort of get involved with, like I mean, I would teach you all of this stuff, you know. I mean, maybe not teach you, like I would give you resources to learn all this stuff, and then I would be there to help answer your questions, and then I would coach you building out these various parts with pair programming, which, you know, at the end of the day, that is how you actually learn. So yeah, it'll be this thing where I'll be, you know, helping you get to whatever portion of this you find appealing, and it could be all of it. So um, this right here is a GIF of how Rootski works, but I'm actually going to give a live demo in this video, which I actually had to debug a few things before I could do this live demo. So I guess it was good that we did this. So um, yes, so uh, that let me just like cap off, I guess, my experience. So yeah, I'm working as an ML ops engineer at Branded Entertainment Network. So they basically do product placement, and that's a whole other thing. But it's a fantastic company, and um, pretty soon I'm going to have the opportunity to move into like a kind of a half and half data science, data engineering role. And I'm just super stoked. Like I'm really excited to do some research and modeling on sort of in addition to building out like big data pipelines and REST APIs and stuff like that. So honestly, it's my dream job, and I could see myself staying there for like a long, long time. And yeah, and a lot of the people there are like thought leaders in the AI software space. So it's just a really good environment. So I guess I guess it might sound like I'm kind of bragging right now, which I guess in a way I am. Like I'm sort of bragging on behalf of like, you know, this really cool company and these really awesome people. But I guess more importantly, like I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been exposed to like some really, really good practices and some really, really bad practices in like the 2.5, 3 years I've been, you know, working as a software engineer. And, you know, I'm also the kind of guy who I just love what I do, you know. So on top of the time that I spend working, I'm always taking a course or reading something, you know, about tech and, you know, working on Brewski. So I think I've probably, well, yeah, I've definitely advanced, I think, in technical skills, like a lot faster than most people, because most people have like a life. So yeah, so I am pretty soon, I think, going to become a senior engineer. And yeah, so like I think I can speak to architecting things in a stable way, and I feel like I can definitely lead us to make Rootski awesome. So, and really what I think you should be most interested in is I really want to coach the people who help contribute to Rootski and basically pass on any of the goodness that I've been exposed to in my career so far. So, yeah, I'm really hoping that like if you're a junior person, I'm really hoping that your experience with Rootski can bring you past that. Like if you feel like you're struggling for entry level positions at a company, I mean, if you have the time to contribute to Rootski, I want you to skip past entry level positions. Like I want you to be like not a junior engineer, but like a regular full-time engineer. Or I mean, I can't totally promise this because a senior engineer title varies by place, but I mean if you want to develop skills that are on par with a senior engineer, basically the way that you're going to be doing some self-directed learning with Rootski, that's what people expect out of a senior engineer. I mean, another component of it is like leadership for seniority. I if you want to know the difference between a junior and a senior engineer, I think that's a really important and healthy question to ask early on and in the middle and at the end of your career, I guess. So I left my thoughts on that on a Notion document. So let's see. Let me just pull this into view. So this is in dark mode, so it's not going to look exactly like you're going to see it. But basically, I have a link on our Slack channel and also on LinkedIn, and you can just reach out to me if you don't have it to our knowledge base for the Rootski project. And let's see, what was I talking about just now? That's so funny. I can't remember what I was talking about. Well, here's the knowledge base. So if you come here, there's links and descriptions of yeah, there's like useful links that get you into our code base and stuff. And I talk a little bit about the mission of the project. Okay, I remember what I was talking about. So we have an onboarding page. So if you want to join Risky, I really need you to work through this entire page. Like there's a ton of text here, and I'm really sorry about that, um, but there's so much to explain. I think onboarding onto Rootski really is like onboarding onto an actual software team, and so software teams have their own practices and stuff. And there's a lot to there's a lot to learn and get set up when you onboard. And I have had awful onboarding experiences and a really good one. So I tried to model the Rootski onboarding experience off of the best things. And honestly, onboarding is a skill. So if you feel like you want practice onboarding, Rootski should show you what to expect, honestly. So I think that'll be really cool. Okay, but I was talking about the difference between a junior and a senior engineer. I have a section on Rootski job titles. I'm hoping that everyone at Rootski will complete some project aligned with a real industry job title, and then I want you to list that job title on your LinkedIn page for your experience. Yeah, I think that'll be really awesome. And then I want you, before that job title, to put either junior engineer or nothing. Probably none of us here at Rootski are going to be putting senior engineer on our job titles at Rootski, just because that, I don't know if that would be the most legitimate. But if you click this drop down, I have this whole sort of mini article on what is the difference between a junior and senior engineer. And I mean, obviously, a lot of these are my opinions, but these are like generally agreed upon opinions. I mean, this is basically the Google philosophy, or like it's the philosophy we use at Ben for sure. It lines up with like conversations I've had with my managers. So I guess this is like Eric's opinion on what the difference between a junior and senior engineer is. So if you want to skip past like, junior level experience in a role, or if you're just wondering how to become more senior, I think this little blurb is going to give you kind of like, I think it'll help you set your goals. So. Sorry, I don't know how long this video is going, but it is going kind of long. I'm gonna keep going though. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop this video and then I'm gonna start the next one with a tour of the Rootski product.